It's your turn. Hi. Good to see you too.
Good morning, everyone. It is an unusual thing in my life right now to stand up in front of a group of people and see faces smiling back at me that are not on a screen. This is kind of lovely. I see some friends of mine from our community, Unity Peace, and I know that I've met a lot of the rest of you prior to this, besides, through various concerts and different things. And as I was mentioning earlier, we hosted Reverend Janice's ordination. And I was very honored that she asked me to be here with you all today. You are in such an exciting place of not knowing. And I'm sure that none of you woke up the day before this began to unfold. I'm sure none of you woke up and said, you know, I could really use a big dose of not knowing what on earth is going to happen in the next 24 hours. And it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time because Reverend Janice has come to a point of feeling complete with her work here. I was reaching that point in my community. I will admit mine ended a little more abruptly than I really would have planned. And we all get these sort of reset points to just sort of reset. And it doesn't mean that what came before was in any way less than. It simply means that every now and again we kind of realign ourselves. You know, there's all those metaphors about if you're going to sail, you know, if you want to get there, you don't really go straight. You go here for a while and there for a while and then over here. And that's about where my sailing experience metaphors run out. And the point of beginning, sort of the origin point of any time of change, requires one of two choices. And I know that we are all good New Thought people here, so I'm going to assume you're going to take the choice of most potential. The two choices, and actually, you know, we always have infinite choices, but they kind of boil down in a time like this to two. One is we can crawl into our shells, just do what everybody thinks we ought to be doing, and just sort of putter along. You know, we've all learned how to do that. Don Miguel Ruiz, in his book, The Four Agreements, talks about the domestication process that we all go through when we come into this world. And if any of you, and I see enough people that are my age or so, that I'm sure many of us have had the opportunity to look into the eyes of a newborn baby. If you have ever looked into the eyes of a newborn baby, I don't care whose baby it is, I don't care what your attitude about babies are. I, quite frankly, was one of those in my professional life that when people would come back to show off the baby, I would be like, okay, can we get back to work now? Can we just go home? You know, of course, obviously it changed when I had my own. I had the opportunity a few years ago to see a 2-year-old baby and to hold that baby, and a 2-day-old baby, I'm sorry. And it just reminded me of how totally alive and open and knowing, and I'm going to say uncontaminated. I don't really mean that in a terribly horrible way, but just in that sense of the domestication process had not begun. And, you know, we do live as humans. We are spiritual beings, and we are fully human. So we get to be 100% human and 100% divine. And I know if you're a math person, you know, that's kind of one of those things you got to just play with, but you're not going to change my mind. So don't even talk to me about math. But when we come here, we are coming from wherever it is that we come. I don't know where that is, how that is, what that is. I don't know anything about that in my humanness, except that I know it is. I know that there is a force. There is that power, that presence. There is that more than that has somehow taken a back seat for much of our lives. And that domestication process is necessary. You know, we do have to work with one another. We do have to do something to make our way in life. Most of us are not going to go live in the woods or be hermit Buddhists in caves, although I have sure been tempted a few times to want to do that. We have to work with one another. Humans evolved to be communal. We work better in community than we do by ourselves. I know that one of the last few weeks, because I've watched several of Janice's sermons, and she used the phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you need friends. You need other people with you. It's a must. And in reality, you know, we tend to have times of being by ourselves and times of being with others. And so for a community who is now finding itself at one of those reset points, if you all just went home and in your own little privacy of your home said, well, this is how it ought to be, I'm just going to say you're not going to get very far. You have the blessing of a community that has been here for a long time. Between Reverend Donald and Reverend Janice, you have had good, solid leadership that I know of for at least most of the 20 or so years that I've been around and aware of you. And I'm sure there was somebody before that as well. So this space of not knowing is one where we get a chance, you get a chance to not only re-examine, well, who am I authentically? And what is my highest and best in this circumstance? But who am I authentically, and how can I serve my friends in the highest and best manner? Some of you have probably come here for, weeks, months, years, and have thought, well, maybe I should volunteer to blah, blah, blah. But you've sort of never said that because somebody else is already doing it. Well, maybe it's time to raise your hand or ask that other person who's doing it, what is it you really do? What's required? I know that you will have some form, some structure here for how you accomplish those things. Some of you will be in your closet by yourself and think, wouldn't it be great? Somebody mentioned an idea 3 years ago that we just never really seemed to follow up on. Because those things happen. And maybe it's time just to, have a conversation with one of your board people or something and say, remember this came up a long time ago and nothing happened. Is it time to rethink that? What I'm asking you to do, what I am authentically asking you to do, is to become very aware in your own lives of where you're playing small. Awareness has to be the first step. It has to be the first step. Are you investing time in mindfulness? Are you actually looking at the days of your lives and thinking, where am I just sort of on autopilot? That I could reclaim that time. The domestication process is necessary for we humans, and it's not our goal. Our goal is to be authentic. I wanted to share with you a quote from Brene Brown. Those of you that know me have probably heard me rant about the inaccurate quotes that get floated around the internet. So I'm kind of one of those that, by gosh, if I'm going to quote someone, I'm going to write it down, say who said it. Otherwise, I'll just say, oh, someone said something like blah, blah, blah. But Brene Brown, the daily practice of letting go, this is authenticity, her definition. Is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. So where in your life do you know? Most of us could probably be still for a few minutes and come up with at least one area where we are doing what we think people want us to do, and they maybe really do want you to do it, you know. We do have obligations to other people in our lives, and it can really be a challenge. It's sort of like changing the rules in the middle of the game to all of a sudden just say, you know, like the day before Thanksgiving, by gosh, this year I am going to be my authentic self. I'm going to tell Uncle Joe what I really think about him. You know, that's not what I'm saying. Authentic you is kind and compassionate. And maybe you have allowed Uncle Joe to breach some boundaries in the past that you realize are really not okay with you. And so it's perfectly all right. You still get to be you. You still get to be the person that you actually are. And we get to kind of claim these reset points. So maybe this next Thanksgiving, maybe you just ask Uncle Joe if maybe he would, you know, wait until later to tell the jokes when your kids aren't around. You know, whatever. And I have no Uncle Joe. I know no Uncle Joe. So if you are an Uncle Joe, I apologize profoundly. And I know that you are not who I am talking about. But we have to be aware. And being aware does not just fall on us like a ton of bricks. Sometimes things happen that do fall on us like a ton of bricks, and we realize, boy, I have really been headed in the wrong direction. And other times we realize that we have just been doing what we thought other people wanted us to do. And maybe it's just because we really feel like we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. I cannot tell you how many times that community members have come to me in private and said something to the effect of, you know, Nita, I would love to do what I'm sent here to do. I would love to fulfill my purpose, and I don't know what it is. Please just tell me what I'm supposed to do, and I will do it. I promise you. Just tell me what to do, and I will do it. And, you know, I can't answer that for them. All I can say is that you are here to be the fullest expression of divine source that you can be. And this means making changes for most of us. It means observing your own life. When is it that I'm most authentic in my own heart? And when is it that I'm furthest away from that? And remember those things. I'll tell you quite frankly, if you want to pretty much have a way to have at least one period of time every week that you know that you can be absolutely authentic, it is go to ministerial school, become a minister, and get ready to walk up on that platform at whatever time you walk up on that platform and know that your only job in that moment is to be authentic. It's very easy, I started to say from 10:30 to 11, from 9:30 to 10:30 sometimes. It's very easy for me to be totally and completely authentic as I stand here in front of all of you. Now, when it's a Wednesday afternoon and I'm at my other job and I'm upset and I'm stressed and I'm wondering how I'm ever going to get all this stuff done, and why do I have to do all this stuff anyway when I know I have such a higher calling in life? It's really hard for me to stay terribly authentic in those moments, except being my human authentic self, which is stressed and annoyed and resentful, and all of those things that I really don't want to claim as my truth. But we still have to find a way to navigate life. Once we start becoming aware of what it is that we actually are here for, and I will tell you, I will tell you right here what I think your purpose is to be. Most of you know I'm a Unity ordained minister, and Charles Fillmore, who is Unity co-founder, he took a statement that I have stopped. I'm looking at Marielle, because I know Marielle told me where this verse came from one time. She's a much better Bible scholar than I ever will be. But here is a verse from the Bible through Charles Fillmore, through me, that we are strong, positive, powerful, wise, loving, fearless, free spirit. That we are the divine, expressing at the point we are. And so it is. So if you string together all of that strong, positive, powerful, wise, fearless, free spirit, that's your purpose. That's your purpose. That's what you have come here to be. An author that I absolutely love, Imelda Shanklin, has a book called What Are You? And she was around in like about I'm going to say the 1920s, 30s, around in there. And she closed her book, and again, I think I have it in my mind, but I'm going to just read it. After this whole book, which is a wonderful book of how we become more aware of what, I just recommend it to everybody. It's called What Are You? She gets to the last page and she says, so what are you? And her answer, you are heaven's non-resistant, all-conquering hero. Let that sink in for a moment. You, and you, and you, and you, and you, and every one of us is heaven's non-resistant, all-conquering hero. We have shown up here in human form from what we don't know, we can't define, on the way to what we don't know and can't define. But somehow, if I believe that we are creatures of choice, we have chosen to do this. One of my teachers along the line said, remember the next time you see somebody you think really could be doing better in life, remember that they came from the same place you did. They could have just stayed up there, whatever it is, when we're just in that non-incarnate, just blissful substance. When we are that, we probably had a choice. We could have stayed there. But we chose to buy the e-ticket, which maybe is an obsolete reference now. When I was a kid and you went to Disneyland, e-tickets were the best. You didn't get many of them, so you used those really wisely, And so there was a choice. I believe this is a volitional incarnation. Again, I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know what the process is, I don't know what we end up after we, is it a report card? I kind of always look at it like some sort of weird, crazy field trip. I don't really know what they're going to ask me that I learned when I get to the other side. And we could have probably just stayed part of that blissful allness. But we are here. And so if we are here, it must be for purpose. One of my favorite, I'm a big fan of movies. John and I have probably watched about 99% of every movie ever made. The movie Hugo. Are any of you familiar with that? It's based on the graphic novel Hugo Cabret. At a point in that film, and Hugo is a young orphan, and he lives in a Paris train station, and he has taken over taking care of the clock, which was his father's job and his grandfather's job, and that's the family job. And I don't think, it's like people didn't really even realize that here was a little boy living there doing that. And at some point, he meets a young girl, and she is quite well off and very unhappy. And they become friends, and at one point, Hugo shows her where he lives, up through the clock. And she has admitted to him that she feels like she doesn't really know what she's there for. Who am I? Why does my life not work? And Hugo tells her, everything has a purpose. Clocks tell time, trains take you places. I just imagine the whole world is one big machine. And machines never have extra parts, They always come with the exact amount they need. So I figured if the entire world is one big machine, I can't be an extra part. I have to be here for some reason, and that means you have to be here for some reason too. And we have to remember that sometimes. We have to remember that no matter what it is that we are currently doing to pay the bills, to meet the obligations, to do all of that, and this is where I say, I never, ever, ever mean for someone to walk out and say, that's it, I'm quitting my job today. This is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to learn how to become aware about our lives so that whatever circumstances we find ourselves in, we remember we have the ability through our power of thought to change our experience of that. You may have what you feel is a very mundane and unnecessary and, quite frankly, below your possibility position. I've had a lot of those jobs. I have had a whole lot of those jobs. And we can find a way to realize, well, but if somebody's given me a paycheck, it must need to be done. And I can do it with integrity and with skill. And I can allow it to meet my needs here and now while I'm becoming perhaps a little more aware of what might be a good next step for me. We can take that as one of those reset points. So we have this responsibility to the whole, to be what we are. We know that when we learn how to live from that we will be happier. The people around us will be happier. The other drivers that you encounter on the road will probably be happier every now and again. And it takes courage. That's the third step. We have to become aware. We have to really observe. And and I didn't specifically give the second step, but the second step is a real compassion for yourself. A compassion for your community, for you guys. You have some very brave and courageous people in your community who have accepted the job at this point of helping to really guide your community through this time of extreme not knowing. And thank them. That's, thank them. And if you think they're getting it wrong, and some of you will think they're getting it wrong. I've been in churches long enough to know that whatever you decide is right, somebody's going to think is wrong. So thank them and be willing to be vulnerable enough to have a conversation. Exercising extreme self-compassion for yourself because it's really hard, and remembering to be compassionate of them as well because they have said yes to a job that somehow you did not say yes to. So this is a time, and there's another, and this one I am just going to say, I just love this from Brene Brown, and I don't know what the exact words are, but I know it's her. One of the definitions and examples she gives of vulnerability is that it feels like you're a turtle without a shell in a briar patch. Ooh, doesn't that just kind of hurt to even hear it? A turtle without a shell in a briar patch. Now, who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that. But that's where the courage comes in. And for anyone who doesn't know and who isn't kind of a word geek, the root word of courage actually comes from your heart. It's living with your heart. One of those just ancient things that comes down to us is that the longest journey we'll ever take is the 12 inches from our head to our heart. Oh, is that ever so true? It's long and it's a hard journey. And that's what we really need to do when we're at these times of not knowing. We need to remember truth. We need to base our actions on truth. We need to ask ourselves, am I behaving from truth, or am I behaving from how I was domesticated? We're really happy when they combine. It's okay, everybody's happy with me. Apparently I'm doing what they want me to do, and I'm living in my truth. I'm going to just finish off with a little bit of Ernest Holmes today, and some of you know, some of you don't. Just interesting little fun fact, Reverend Janice came into her New Thought journey through the door of unity and ended up here as a CSL minister. I came into the door of New Thought through CSL and ended up a unity minister. And I have not picked up much Ernest Holmes for quite a while. But this thing called You, I'm sure that most of you have access to this book. In the very beginning, you belong to the universe in which you live. You are one with the creative genius back of this vast array of ceaseless motion. It's the original flow of life. You are as much a part of it as the sun, the earth, and the air. There is something in you telling you this, like a voice echoing from some mountaintop of inward vision, like a light whose origin no man has seen, like an impulse welling up from an invisible source. You know that feeling. You know that feeling. There's something calling you higher. Your soul belongs to the universe. Your soul belongs to the universe. Your mind is an outlet through which creative intelligence seeks fulfillment. You. Your mind is an outlet through which creative intelligence of the universe seeks fulfillment. This is your starting point for investigating the meaning of these impulses, longings, and desires which accompany you through life. You may accept that the source through which they come is real. You may accept that the universe is filled with a divine infinite presence, which is perhaps the infinite of you. Not the infinite of your limited self, but the infinite of the divine self you must be. There must be a pattern of yourself in this invisible. And then I'm just going to skip a couple of paragraphs, but then he says again, you are to believe with utmost simplicity and with complete faith that there is a pattern of your being, or a real spirit of you which is as eternal as God, as indestructible as reality, and as changeless as truth. This pattern is seeking to manifest through you, back of it all, the will and purpose of the universe, all of the irresistible laws of being. Finally, it will win. There is something within you beyond all doubt and fear, something which has never been limited by your acts or destroyed by your feeling. And this is the only something that can make you whole. Until we are each willing to accept that we are strong, positive, powerful, wise, loving, fearless, free spirit, that we are the expressions of the divine in us, as us, at this moment, we will always feel like there's a puzzle piece missing. And how frustrating to get like 4,999 pieces of that puzzle and then find out there ain't another one in the box. So as you all move forward, I hope that you will give thought to what is it that you are authentically here to be? What is it that you are authentically here to do? What is yours that no one else came with that? You know, the title for today was Be Yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And that's so true. You are a unique, individualized, necessary expression of the one. So I hope you'll join with me now and center yourself in that place of truth within you. Allow a few breaths, perhaps. If it's comfortable, you might want to close your eyes, and if not, that is okay as well, because you know you. So we center ourselves in truth. We know that there is one power, one presence. We know that that one power, that one presence, which goes by so many names, is what we are. We cannot define it. We can't feel it with our hands, but we know it in our mind and in our heart. We know that we are divine presence expressing at the point we are. We remember that so is everyone else. And we know that no matter how strong or how not strong we may feel in any given moment, this is the truth of what we are. We are the divine. We are here for purpose. And we can discern that purpose, but we have to do the work. Are we willing? Are you willing to do the work? To do the work necessary to bring yourself to a greater expression of the one, and to help this community to bring its expression of oneness to ever greater, ever higher dimensions. We know this is true. We claim willingness. We claim compassion. We claim the willingness to remember that just as I am doing the very best I can, so is everyone else. We live from this truth. We claim it as our own. We practice it with every thought that we can. And so it is. Amen.